Nafisa Collier found herself under intense scrutiny during a live television appearance, and what followed left many viewers stunned. While she confidently suggested that the WNBA should take lessons from her new league, Unrivaled, the reality painted by the numbers told a very different story. Caitlin Clark has driven record-breaking attendance and television viewership that the WNBA had never experienced before, while Unrivaled continues to operate in a small gym with only a few hundred fans in attendance. The situation becomes even more controversial when one critical fact is considered. Collier is not a neutral observer. She is a co-founder of Unrivaled. If the WNBA were to weaken or fail, her business stands to gain enormously. What appears on the surface as criticism suddenly looks like a glaring conflict of interest. The interview began calmly, but the tone shifted quickly. Sitting across from the host with clear confidence, Collier argued that the WNBA needed to study Unrivaled's approach to player treatment and league operations. The claim alone raised eyebrows. Here was someone running a startup league out of a single gym in Miami offering advice to a long-established professional league. When attendance and viewership numbers were brought into the discussion, the mood changed instantly. Collier hesitated as she tried to explain why Unrivaled draws roughly a few hundred fans. While Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever games regularly filled arenas with more than 15,000 spectators, she spoke repeatedly about sustainability and prioritizing the player experience. Yet she could not answer the most basic question. If her model was truly superior, why was almost no one watching? The host continued pressing, shifting the focus to television ratings. Clark's playoff games against Connecticut attracted more than 2 million viewers on ESPN. Her rookie and sophomore seasons shattered WNBA viewership records on a near-weekly basis. By comparison, Unrivaled's games reach only a small audience through social media streams. Collier attempted to argue that quality mattered more than quantity, but her reasoning failed to convince. The most uncomfortable moment came when Collier claimed that veteran players like herself were primarily responsible for the WNBA's recent surge in popularity. She argued that the league's foundation was built by established stars rather than newcomers. The host immediately challenged that narrative. Caitlin Clark brought mainstream sports attention to women's basketball on a scale that had not been achieved in more than 2 decades. Her impact was immediate, measurable, and undeniable. As the interview continued, attention turned to Collier's dual roles. How could someone serve as vice president of the WNBA Players Union while also owning a competing league? Collier deflected by speaking broadly about player advocacy and improved working conditions, but she never directly addressed the issue of divided loyalties. She insisted she wanted what was best for women's basketball, yet struggled to explain how publicly undermining the WNBA accomplished that goal. By the end of the segment, Collier appeared visibly overwhelmed. She could not justify why fans or players should trust business guidance from someone whose venture barely registers on the professional sports landscape. The host pointed out that Caitlin Clark's influence could be tracked across every meaningful metric. Jersey sales soared, ticket sales exploded, television ratings climbed to historic levels, and social media engagement reached new heights. Collier had no concrete response, relying instead on vague references to respecting the game's history. For many fans, the interview confirmed long-held suspicions. This was not about improving conditions or growing the sport. Collier's criticism of the WNBA consistently positioned Unrivaled as a supposed alternative, even though the data clearly showed otherwise. The conflict of interest became impossible to ignore. As vice president of the Players Union, Collier is meant to represent every WNBA athlete. Simultaneously, she runs a league that competes for the same players, sponsors, and audience. During collective bargaining negotiations, her role is to advocate for the league's players. Yet every financial concession forced upon the WNBA weakens the league and indirectly strengthens Unrivaled. Collier has pushed aggressively for a proposed $10.5 million salary cap increase, a demand many believe would destabilize the league's financial structure. Negotiations have already been extended multiple times, largely because the numbers simply do not add up. The WNBA relies on media rights, ticket revenue, and sponsorships. If salaries grow beyond sustainable limits, teams lose money, investors withdraw, and the entire league is put at risk. The troubling implication is clear. If the WNBA were to collapse, displaced players would have limited options, with Unrivaled positioned as a beneficiary. Collier has repeatedly criticized Commissioner Kathy Engelbert in public, questioning her leadership and undermining confidence in the league. While framed as concern for player welfare, these statements consistently make the WNBA appear unstable while Unrivaled appears positioned as an alternative. From a business perspective, the strategy is effective. Unrivaled does not need to surpass the WNBA on its own. It only needs the WNBA to appear fractured and dysfunctional. Frustrated players and uncertain fans begin searching for other options. That is precisely where Unrivaled enters the conversation. The timing of Collier's public criticism has raised further concerns. Caitlin Clark's arrival marked the most successful growth period in WNBA history. Attendance, ratings, and merchandise sales reached unprecedented levels. Instead of reinforcing that momentum, Collier introduced controversy and division. Commissioner Engelbert has publicly accused Collier of misrepresenting private negotiations and spreading false narratives. Relations between league leadership and the union have deteriorated to the point where public accusations have replaced cooperation. This environment benefits no one except those who gain from instability. Players find themselves caught between supporting union leadership and protecting the league that finally brought mainstream attention to women's basketball. The possibility of a lockout now looms over the 2026 season. Such an outcome would risk driving away millions of new fans who discovered the sport through Caitlin Clark. The irony is impossible to ignore. Clark transformed women's basketball into a cultural phenomenon. Her college games rivaled men's broadcasts. Her arrival in Indiana turned fever games into must-see events nationwide. Yet at the peak of the success, internal conflict threatens to undo it all. Many fans now believe the live interview revealed the truth. This was not about reform or progress. It was about positioning a competing business while weakening the league that enabled Collier's career. The WNBA has secured a multi-billion-dollar media rights deal, expanded under Engelbert's leadership, and achieved historic growth driven by Caitlin Clark. Allowing divided interests to undermine that progress risks damaging women's basketball for years to come. The question now belongs to the fans. Is this about advocacy or ambition? Decide for yourself. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Click the video on screen, and we will see you next time.